He became this wild symbol of grit on screen, but behind the cameras, he was fighting a whole different kind of war. The victories of Rocky and the heat of Rambo were just the surface, because offset, Stallone was dealing with real-life clashes that cut way deeper than any movie punch. These battles were mixed with pride, ego, jealousy, and straight-up Hollywood power plays that most people never even heard about. To the public, Stallone looks untouchable, like the ultimate underdog who refused to quit. But inside the industry, it was a whole different scene. There were stars who wanted to outshine him, people he once called friends who later turned cold, and legendary names who couldn't believe this newcomer had the nerve to challenge their spot in the spotlight. Some of these beefs exploded right in front of everyone, loud and messy, while others stayed tucked behind studio doors, talked about in low voices, but never fully exposed. What makes Stallone's story so wild is not just the long list of people he clashed with, but how personal these feuds became. These weren't small disagreements or little ego bumps. These were fights that changed careers, broke friendships, and nearly shut down major films before they even had a chance to breathe. Every feud left a mark, and every win came with a cost. And the deeper you dig, the more obvious it becomes that Stallone didn't rise because Hollywood opened doors for him. He rose because he pushed every door open himself and refused to bow to anyone. Tonight, you're stepping straight into the rivalries that shaped him, the ones that uncover a part of Stallone the world almost never gets to see. Once you hear these stories, you'll never look at his legacy the same way again. Long before they ever stood shoulder to shoulder in The Expendables, Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger were locked in one of the wildest rivalries Hollywood had ever seen. And this wasn't the cute, friendly competition fans like to imagine. It was sharp, it was personal, and for years it got so petty it almost felt like they were battling for survival in every room they entered. Their feud didn't start with a blockbuster. It started with humiliation so deep, Stallone carried it like a scar. Back in 1977, Stallone walked into the Golden Globes, convinced the night belonged to Rocky. The whole world had already fallen in love with the story, and he thought this was finally his moment. The night Hollywood would show him the respect he had fought tooth and nail for. But instead, he sat there watching award after award slip right past him. His name kept getting skipped, and the air in the room must have felt colder every time it happened. And sitting across the room was this new guy from Austria, Arnold, laughing each time Stallone's name wasn't called. Reports from that night say he couldn't hold back his grin, and it cut Stallone deep. Arnold walked away with New Star of the Year, while Stallone walked out with that burning mix of embarrassment and anger he never let go of. That single night sparked a Cold War between them, one that shaped the entire next decade of action films. Every time Stallone dropped a movie, Arnold answered with something louder, bigger, flashier. It became a battle of who could dominate the box office, who could flex harder on screen, and who could outdo the other in every single way. They weren't just trying to figure out who was louder or tougher. This rivalry turned into a full-blown showdown across movie theaters everywhere. Rocky and First Blood were smashing into Conan, Terminator, and Predator like giants battling for the same kingdom. Even their posters felt like they were talking trash to each other. Interview jokes slowly twisted into public jabs, and studios loved it so much they quietly pushed the rivalry even harder, because they knew this drama sold tickets like crazy. Behind the bright lights, both men were chasing the same scripts, the same highly paid roles, the same action hero crown. But underneath all those business moves, the rivalry had a deeper bite. It became about pride. Stallone looked at Arnold as the outsider who mocked him when he was down, and Arnold saw Stallone as the giant blocking his climb to Hollywood domination. Neither one stepped back, not even once. And anytime one of them got ahead, the other came back swinging even harder with a bigger film or a louder performance. But for Stallone, this wasn't even the peak of the chaos, because his next feud didn't come from some up-and-coming rival trying to take his shine. This one came from a legend who tried to take control of his movie, and that fight nearly destroyed Rambo before the character ever became a franchise. When Stallone signed on to create First Blood, He fully believed he was about to bring John Rambo to life with power and heart, especially since he had one of the greatest actors in history standing beside him. Kirk Douglas, the iconic star of Spartacus, had officially agreed to play Colonel Trautman, the only person in the story who truly understood Rambo's broken soul. On paper, it was perfect. A rising action star teamed up with a Hollywood legend. But behind the scenes, things were about to flip into pure chaos, because Douglas didn't just want to act, he wanted control. And the battle that followed would push First Blood to the edge before anyone ever saw Rambo on screen. It sounded like the perfect matchup. Old Hollywood royalty teaming up with the new face of raw, explosive intensity. But the moment Douglas stepped onto the set, that dream shattered fast. He didn't just want to play a role, he wanted to run the whole operation. After digging through the original novel, he started demanding major changes. Big, heavy ones that would flip the whole film upside down. Douglas pushed for a darker ending, where Trautman actually kills Rambo, and he claimed it would give the movie real meaning. And he didn't stop there. Day after day, he challenged lines, questioned Stallone's direction, and kept insisting that his version of the story was the only one that truly respected the book. For Stallone, it didn't feel like guidance. It felt like straight sabotage. Stallone wasn't just starring in the film. He had rewritten the script with a vision that honored veterans and spotlighted the emotional scars soldiers carried. He saw Rambo as a symbol, not a character you just throw away for dramatic shock value to boost someone's ego. So every time Douglas pushed back, the tension on set got thicker. Things got so heated that director Ted Kotcheff finally snapped. He told Douglas straight up, "This is the film we're making. If you don't like it, you can walk." And Douglas didn't argue. He actually walked off the set that same day. No warning, no slowdown, just gone. His sudden exit threw the whole production into chaos. Everyone was scrambling, schedules flipped, and the team had to move fast. Richard Crenna was brought in at the very last minute, practically learning pages of dialogue while heading to the set. Even with the stress and the rush, he stepped in like a pro and delivered the version of Trautman that fans still respect today. Amazingly, Richard Crenna's calm and grounded performance became the emotional backbone of the whole movie, the steady force that helped Rambo explode into a billion-dollar franchise. But even with the success, Stallone never forgot what went down behind the scenes. To him, Douglas wasn't just being difficult. He almost wrecked the very film that would end up shaping Stallone's entire future in Hollywood. The two of them never worked together again, and Stallone later dropped hints that some actors care more about making a dramatic exit than telling the actual story. And if that clash taught Stallone anything about the danger of ego, the next feud cut even deeper, because it wasn't about a script, a scene, or a movie deal. This one was about betrayal from someone he truly trusted. Before tabloids twisted everything into messy headlines, Sylvester Stallone and Eddie Murphy were genuinely close in the late 80s. These weren't surface-level Hollywood smiles. These two were rising icons who actually vibed with each other. Stallone was dominating action movies, while Murphy was the unstoppable king of comedy. They partied together, joked around together, and built a friendship that looked real in a world full of fake handshakes and hidden motives. In an industry where loyalty is rare, theirs felt solid. But Hollywood doesn't protect friendships. It tests them hard. And everything shifted during the filming of Beverly Hills Cop 2. Stallone's wife at the time, Brigitte Nielsen, was cast in the movie right beside Murphy. Her presence was impossible to miss. Fearless, bold, and strikingly beautiful. She had that energy that pulled every eye in the room toward her. And once she stepped onto that set, the rumors started spreading fast. Whispers began floating about tension, chemistry, and all kinds of behind-the-scenes talk, and the industry latched onto it instantly. Suddenly, something that should have been simple turned into a storm surrounding three massive stars. Crew whispers turned into full-blown talk around the set, and before long, the tabloids grabbed the story and ran wild with it. Suddenly, the headlines were screaming that something had gone down between Murphy and Nielsen. Whether any of it was true didn't even matter anymore. The embarrassment hit Stallone hard, and he felt it in a way that cut straight through his pride. Stallone went to Murphy directly, looking him in the eye and demanding clarity, demanding honesty, demanding anything that could help fix the damage. Murphy denied every bit of it, but the problem wasn't just the rumor, it was the crack it left behind. For Stallone, a man who built his world on loyalty, that crack was everything. You can apologize for a mistake, but you can't apologize for doubt, and doubt was the only thing standing between them now. What followed wasn't some explosive meltdown or dramatic fight. It was a slow fade, the kind that hurts even more because it happens quietly. Phone calls stopped coming, invites stopped showing up, and people around them started choosing sides without ever saying it out loud. By the early 90s, the bond they once bragged about was gone, replaced by an awkward silence both of them recognized but never tried to fix. Murphy later said it was sad that a rumor could take down a real friendship, and he wasn't wrong. But sadness couldn't reverse what happened. Once the trust was cracked, the damage was already locked in. And with Hollywood watching, talking, and twisting the story every chance it got, that distance only grew bigger and colder. Studios and fans started lining them up side by side, comparing every movie, every box office hit, every headline, pushing them into a rivalry, whether they wanted it or not. Two giants who once stood close suddenly looked like opponents in a ring they never signed up for. And if that feud hit Stallone's heart on a personal level, the next one struck him right in the pride. And it all started over something so tiny and ridiculous that it became one of the strangest beefs he ever had. Long before Sylvester Stallone became a worldwide icon, he was just another hungry actor grinding for his first real break. And right beside him on one of those early sets was another unknown kid trying to climb the same ladder, an ambitious, determined young Richard Gere. They were supposed to share the screen, maybe even build some early chemistry that could boost both their careers. But instead, they sparked one of Hollywood's pettiest, oddest feuds ever recorded. The problem started the second they began working together. Gere approached acting like a strict perfectionist, focused, serious, and all about technique. Stallone, who had co-written The Lords of Flatbush, came in with raw energy, instinct, and improvisation flowing through every scene. Two actors from two totally different worlds, and neither one was willing to adjust or meet in the middle. But the real explosion happened during a cramped car scene. Gere was sitting in the back eating a chicken sandwich, and out of nowhere, a single drop of mustard slid right onto Stallone's pants. That tiny drop was the spark that blew up the whole situation. Stallone reacted without thinking, throwing an elbow into Gere's head and pushing him right out of the car in front of the entire crew. Everyone on set froze. Nobody expected it to go that far. And from that moment on, the collaboration was done. Stallone didn't want him around. The energy was ruined, and the tension was beyond repair. It wasn't some dramatic industry betrayal or major scandal. It was mustard. But in the pressure cooker of early careers, even something that small turned into a feud. Hollywood still talks about today. The whole set froze on the spot. Producers started panicking, and within just a few hours, Richard Gere was gone from the project. The official reason tossed around was creative differences. But everybody on that set knew the truth. Stallone had taken control in that moment, and Gere ended up leaving with his pride bruised in front of the entire crew. What should have been nothing more than an awkward little accident turned into a grudge that stretched on for decades. Stallone joked about the mustard incident years later in interviews, treating it like some weird Hollywood memory he could laugh off. But Gere never found it funny. Not once. He took it seriously, believing Stallone shoved him out not because of a sandwich spill, but because Stallone wanted to protect his own rising spot in the industry. And that belief stuck with him as the years rolled on. As Gere's fame skyrocketed in the 80s and 90s with hits like American Gigolo, An Officer and a Gentleman, and Pretty Woman, that old embarrassment from the early days still followed him like a quiet shadow. People inside the industry whispered about their tension, and fans started guessing why the two men never showed up together, not even at big events where both were invited. It was like they were living in the same Hollywood, but on two completely different planets. It's one thing to feud over betrayal, ego, or career moves, but a feud born from a mustard stain? That's the kind of Hollywood story nobody could make up. And of course, it had Stallone's name connected to it, a man whose rivalries were always intense, unexpected, and unforgettable.